Ready?
Good evening, Cleveland, America. Welcome to Elevating Your Consciousness. I am your host, Miss Freddie. This is Who Has the Power Radio show. You can also tune into us on whohasthepowerradioshow.com. We're also on Facebook under Who Has the Power. You can also look us up under my name, which is Frederica Mays Gates. Freddie73 on Instagram, BMad1 on Twitter. But every week, I want to welcome you again to Elevating Your Consciousness. And every week we will talk about current issues ongoing in our community, from politics, entertainment, social issues, all with the purpose of trying to move forward and become more proactive and not just react to everything. We want to empower you to know that we have the power to change our current situations, our future. We just have to unite, decide to take a stand in regards to changing our community. But we got a lot that's going on right now. So normally I would start y'all off with some fluff, like my Housewives of Atlanta and all this other stuff. But
not today.
Not today. We got a lot going on in this country. As we know, we're going to get right into it today. As we know, the verdict came down last night, 9 o'clock at night, that the officer, Darren Wilson, was not indicted on any charges, any wrongful doing in the murder execution of Mike Brown. And we've been seeing a reaction in social media, in the news, and everything. So, man, I can't even begin to express my frustration. I'm not surprised. I want to say that first, but I'm frustrated, because this continues to happen over and over and over again. And we're still in this position, in this point of reacting versus being proactive to be able to stop this, to curb this, to change this. So we're going to get into some serious discussions today. We're going to have Mr. Yancey sitting in with me, and he want to chime in, because I'm telling you, we're going to go in tonight.
I'm sitting in with you every day, but
but we going in today. He usually will sit there and, he won't say nothing, but he's here.
Yeah.
But he got some things to say tonight, too, in regards to it. And I just got into the studio because I was watching the interview with the officer, Darren Wilson, with, what's his name, George Stephanopoulos on Channel 5. And he's probably been on every other news channel with his story. If you haven't heard his version of it, you really need to listen to it, look at him, listen to the story, and it even infuriates me even more that they couldn't find any wrongdoing in this whole case. But you got, and social media is on fire, totally on fire. And I had somebody tell me that this, somebody had posted on Facebook that this is killing race relations in this country. And each time that this happens, especially in this day and age with social media and how instant news is, it's a coffin and a nail each time. For any any progress that's been made, this is a coffin that's, this is a nail in the coffin that's just shutting it back down in regards to race relations in this country, because people automatically, go to their sides and their corners.
Right.
So, go ahead, Mr. Yancey, chime in.
Real quick, because throughout this show also, we want you to be able to call in. We already have somebody on the line now, but we hold yeah, we actually do.
Y'all ready tonight?
I say hold the line, don't hang up, but yeah, definitely make sure we definitely want to hear from you. Keep in mind, we do, like she said, we want to be proactive, not just reactive. We do understand that a lot of people are enraged by this the ruling, or it's not even a ruling because it never went to court. So but we all know that this decision it has impacted a lot of people, even down to the athletes. I might mention that a little bit later. But if you want to call in and give your opinion, keep in mind, let's keep it clean.
Keep as clean as you can, as politically as correct as you can. But hey, I may slip up today. So
look, you gonna learn today. You gonna learn today.
Mind you, y'all, we here in Cleveland, so we got our own little stuff going on here too.
Right.
But so we gonna speak on the young man, Mr. Price, that was killed, the 12-year-old that was killed as well.
But real quick,
Go ahead.
if you want to call in, you can call in area code 914-338-0665. Again, it's area code 914-338-0665. If you want, I'm sure people who are listening want to add to this conversation. Just keep in mind, we don't do a lot of the cursing. We do realize that people are enraged, but let's do the right thing. All right. Okay, Miss Freddie, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try not to curse. Try.
Hold on, I gotta do you like I do Mikael.
My vocabulary a little. I got a little vocabulary. I got a little, something going on with my vocabulary that I don't necessarily have to cuss. But sometimes there's some words that you just.
The way your brain is set up at this time.
Yeah, at this time, okay. From my left account to my, the right hemisphere to the left hemisphere. Sometimes it don't work all in coercion together, but it's been serious since I woke up, since the decision since it came down last night to this morning. I've been on social media and just literally just looking at the divide, just looking at the complete divide, and people just automatically going in their corners of black and white, and I don't know, it infuriates me because I'm not saying that every cop out there is bad. There are definitely some good cops. But it made me think of Lean on Me, when Morgan Freeman first got to the school, and he they say one bad apple spoils the bunch, and he what about 300 of them?
Yes.
300 of them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So one bad apple can spoil the bunch, but right now we have numerous cops that are bad apples in the bunch, and they're making the rest of their colleagues in their profession look really, really bad. So I hate to say it's a black and white issue, but this country was founded on racism. We can't hide from our history, no matter how ugly it is and how many people try to sweep it under the rug. We cannot hide from the fact that this country was built on racism. So, it's a lot going on with this whole thing with Mike Brown and a lot of stuff that's going on in the media. But today we are going to focus on the situation down in Ferguson. And again, at the end of the day, we want to come up with some solutions, because like I tell people, you can sit back on the sidelines, you can post on social media all day, but at the end, what you gonna do? Because if we can't use the power of social media to do something bigger that's beyond ourselves, then to me, what's the point? What's the point of it? I don't need to know your moves and see your food. We need to do something bigger than ourselves with social media.
Right, I tell you what, Miss Freddie, because we have this call, and
apparently
they are like persistent in calling in. So we're gonna go to this caller real quick.
All right. Hi, who we have on the line today?
We're doing great.
Good.
Mm.
I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but I think it would be fair to say even the hardest Michael Brown supporters would have to admit Dorian Johnson did lie on camera when it first came out. I have two parts, but first of all, I'd like your opinions on, do you think Dorian Johnson's testimony hurt the cause from the beginning? Because that's basically what everyone saw first, him talking after the actual incident.
Miss Freddie?
Well, I mean, it may have hurt it, but I don't know. I think sometimes we miss the bigger picture when we focus on just, like you say, it hurt it. But we still have to look at the facts. Now, Joe, did you see the interview with Darren Wilson on the news tonight? Did you see his version of the story? Give me your opinion on that. Tell me, what did you think? Because he was like, Mike Brown was like, went from a 5-year-old to like Hulk Hogan, or, tell me what you feel about his version of the story. Because I had a little problem with it, but that's just my opinion. But you tell me what you think of it.
Of course, you have to be skeptical because he's the one that's facing prison the rest of his life if he goes to jail. So, if I put myself in his shoes, which I'm nothing like the man, I'm not even a big fan of the police, to be honest with you. You're going to say what you have to do to cover yourself.
Right.
So you can almost take his testimony out of the equation because there's no way he's going to say anything to incriminate himself. He's going to cover all the bases no matter whether he's telling the truth or not.
Right.
So in that case, it's just one of those things like, if it's your family member, my family member, or if it's me or you that it happened to, I don't think anybody's going to incriminate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think he almost has to be taken out of the equation, to be honest with you. The one thing I did want to bring up with you guys that seems a little controversy right now, not many people are talking about, are the actual African American witnesses that testified in favor of the cop. The
Right. Right. Right.
aren't on camera that basically are fearing for their safety because that's their community they live in.
Right.
What happens if you know what they say, snitches get stitches or whatever, however you want to put it. I'd like your thoughts on, do you think maybe they were selling out their community by supporting Officer Wilson?
Right. Well, let me, Ms. Freddie, let me. Right, real quick, Joe. I'm gonna address that because Miss Freddie look like she about to.
No, I'm good. I'm feeling you, Joe. I'm listening. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let me, because I want to go back to the first question that you asked, and in regards to Mike Brown's friend, I do have to kind of agree with you that it did hurt, and I understand what Miss Freddie was saying, but again, in certain respects. When I was talking to Miss Freddie off the air, this kind of remind me of the Trayvon Martin situation, and they tried to discredit his friend that spoke on the witness stand. The thing about it is, now, and true enough, yeah, not all of the stories were, not all the facts were true, but one thing that was true, that there was, in my opinion, excessive force use. I mean, mind you, you're talking about an unarmed versus an armed. There's a difference between a gun and a fist. Even if he was reaching for the gun, which we all know there was a gun because he's dead. So it may not have been stated correctly. It may not have been stated properly, but the fact is there was an unnecessary amount of force used. But again, that is kind of one of those things where you can't, like you said, we can't really focus on him. We really have to focus on the situation itself. Now, back to the other questions you asked. Oh God, I just got off on the. I'm sorry.
He forgot what you.
Wow, because I'm in a lot of different places right now. Okay, okay. Say the second question for me one more time, Joe.
Okay, the actual African American witness
Right, there we go.
that Michael Brown was charging forward. And there was one witness in particular that I was reading on. I heard briefly about it. Witness number 10.
Mm-hmm.
He's African American who said he came forward because other witnesses were fabricating the story of the hands up, and he wanted to come out and tell the truth. Now, I'm not pro or for saying he's right or wrong. That's just his actual testimony that was given. So I just kind of like your thoughts on, the actual residents that live right there that gave testimony in favor of Officer Wilson, his chain of events.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say real quick. I'm just gonna say, in my opinion, it's everybody has their that's why they call witnesses. Everybody has different statements. Honestly, I can't speak on that because I haven't myself personally seen the witness statements. At the same time, it's almost kind of choosing sides. If that's what they felt, if that's what they saw, that is their account. It still comes down to the truth, what really happened. I don't care if it's black, white, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Filipino. I don't care what the nationality is. I don't care what side of town you stay on. The truth is still the truth, and that's what is going to. That's what people. Again, I was listening to another broadcaster earlier in the day, and he said he said I really don't want to say anything about it because I have not read I have not seen or I have not read or heard the grand jury testimonies. So therefore, I can't really say for sure. But I mean, if you want to go from personal opinion, anybody could say anything. He may say they're fabricating. They may say he's been a sellout. The bottom line is there's a young man that is dead. How did he die? What were the events that took place that caused him to die? And again, it all comes down to it's a lot. Go ahead, Miss Freddie.
All right, let me give my opinion on about if you live in a community and if you've seen something that happened, I'm not for don't snitch and this and that. I think the black community has taken that to a whole nother unnecessary level, because if you see your neighbor's house getting broke into and you choose not to tell because you say you don't want to be a snitch, that's just ignorance. I call it as it is, and I call it on my own people, because we as a people, without with help, we can be very ignorant. We can. And I can say that because I'm an African American. I grew up in the, low income projects or whatever you want to call it, probably the same type of environment Mike Brown them grew up in. But that doesn't instantaneously say that, like some of the comments I heard on the news, on social media, he was a thug, he deserved to die. You deserve to die over stealing a handful of cigarillos? Really? That's the value of the life, is a few dollars that you have, from when I'm looking at the news and they were talking about they got a call in about a robbery at a store about somebody stealing some cigarillos. Now, in my black community, I've never seen cops show up at a store over some cigarillos being stole. 3-4 cops showing up.
And not only that, when you mention the word robbery, when you hear the word robbery, you think of a gun, you think of some type of weapon, and they never showed a weapon. So
they stole some cigarillos.
Right. But there was no weapon involved, so it wasn't a robbery.
And then, Joe, I'm asking because, I listened to Darren Wilson's story that he told on the news, and he's like, okay, I shot him. He was running away. I pursued him. And then he turned around like he was like this superhero that was. So if he coming at you, my thing is, and because all he kept referring to in my training, in our training, and this and that. So my thing is with the cops and their training. One, I believe that all cops, black, white, whatever nationality you come from, they need some psychological testing before. I don't care if you go through the academy and you get through it, but you can be a racist. You go through the academy, you get through it, you can still have your biases. You go through the academy, you do this and you do that. You still have your personal opinions on certain things. But if you're put in a community that you have a bias against up front, there's going to be a problem with the relationship between the cops and the police. Period. You know what I'm saying?
You actually hit on a very good point. Now, I can't sit here and tell you whether Officer Wilson was racist or not, but what I can tell you is your point about the training in that kind of situation has to be looked over to the point if he's 20 feet away, you have to treat it differently than he's 5 or 6 feet away. So if he's 20 feet away, maybe you would use a different weapon or you would shoot to the leg. And if he's not within 10 feet or under, maybe at that point you do have the grounds to use lethal force.
Right.
Or even one thing I heard is the option of, the point where every officer should have that camera on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no confusion at all. Kind of like, when we saw, the Rodney King incident
Right. Real quick, Joe.
I agree with you on the training. I just can't come right out and say Officer Wilson was definitely racist. I think it might have been a product of how he was trained more than him his thoughts about Michael Brown personally.
I don't want to blanketly call him a racist. I don't want to say that, and I'm gonna take that back. I don't want to say he's a racist, but I think there's a big problem with race relations in this country that we try to ignore, that we try to act like it didn't exist, and the issue with race in the volatile state, the state of what race was in this country, the history is not that old. And people want to act like the 60s was a long time ago. It really wasn't. The Rodney King incident wasn't a long time ago. I'm 41 years old. Martin Luther King was killed 5 years before I hit this earth. So that kind of hatred and bias does not go away because you kill one of the leaders of that movement. That hatred doesn't go away. And again, I don't want to say that Officer Wilson is racist. I don't want to say that, but I just feel like there is a big issue with, and I don't know who set it up, and I guess it was from the 60s or whatever, that they felt like, okay, the white cop should go to the black neighborhood and the black cop should go to the white neighborhood, and that's going to build this bridge. But it doesn't. It doesn't, because there's a problem from the get-go, from how we're raised to how we think and how you feel about this certain race or whatever. So again, I don't want to say he's racist, but people, some people.
Say, man, I can say firsthand. I work in security. I'm not a cop, but I work at a hospital security.
Mhm.
So it's totally different. We don't have weapons. We're told to diffuse situations, to treat everybody differently. Someone comes late through the ER. We put everyone through the metal detector and check everybody, no matter 90-year-old woman or an 18-year-old kid. But I do agree with you when sometimes we do see cops come in after, a shooting. You hear it. You don't hear it blatantly in front of everybody, but you can tell their thoughts and towards minorities. So I definitely agree with you. It's there. A lot of the times it's hidden. They stay in front of other white officers there, and they kind of keep it on the down low, I guess I would say.
Right. Well, real quick before because we got to go to break. One more question I have to ask you, Joe, and this is again, it's too late to ask about. It's too late now, but there was a part of his testimony. He was asked about the use of alternative force versus using the gun. Why didn't he have a taser? And he mentioned the fact that it was too bulky and whatever, and so he didn't carry it. Do you agree that that should have been his stance on not, or why he was not carrying it, or do you think that it's necessary for law enforcement to carry tasers, because again, that provides an alternative force that is there. I've seen pros and cons. I've seen people break out of it, but then I've seen people go down with it. That's possible that could have been used versus a gun.
No, I agree with you absolutely. I think what I heard, it was too far out of his reach or something, but it should have been on him in the first place, and that's why I go back to training.
Mhm.
You have to come up with ulterior solutions other than if someone's coming to you shoot to kill.
And I agree with you, Joe. When you said, my thing is when it comes to police and their training, if you're trained and this is your profession and why are you not trained to shoot at the arm? Why are you not? You could have shot him in the knee. He would have went down. You shoot him in the leg, he would have went down. I don't care how big he is. He would have went down. So why is it always, and then that fatal shot at the top of his head? That bothers me. That.
Well, man, it's why they always say that is they shoot to kill and not in the leg or the arm, because they always, and now I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, again, they always go to that situation. Let's say someone's on PCP or something, and they have superhuman strength for that minute or whatever, that they can take the shot to the leg or the arm and Whether I believe that, I don't know because I've never seen it personally. But I think the one thing we do agree on is that there has to be a serious solution than just shoot to kill for an 18-year-old coming at you,
Now,
right or wrong.
and mind you, Joe, we are in Cleveland, so we got the situation with the 12-year-old that just got killed. With the 12-year-old that just got shot down because he had a toy gun, and the police said he was fearful of his life. So it's like you couldn't have tased them, you couldn't have talked them down, because I've seen instances where, on the other side of it, where there's been a white man with the armed gun, and the police took the time, the patience to talk this man down. So you couldn't apply that to a 12-year-old. But Joe, we got to go to a break, but I want to thank you so much for your call. If you want to call back in, definitely give us a call back. We're going to keep this conversation going, but thank you again for giving us a call in tonight.
We gotta go to break.
We're going to break right now. See you back in a few minutes. I said we was going to break.
Oh Jesus! You gotta work that out, Miss Freddie.
What I got to say on break?
Hey, hey Joey, thanks for calling in. We gotta go to
we're
break.
out of time right now.
No, stay tuned. We'll be back. State your name and the name of your show. This is Elevating Your Consciousness with Miss Freddie. We'll be right back. Okay. You're probably the wrong day for that, right?
Okay.
Wrong day.
Okay. When it's time to go to break.
Yeah. Just restate
Hold on with us. If we having a good conversation, I can tell them to hold on.
Yeah, but then, like I said, in general, restate the name of your show, who you are, and you'll be right back.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So how long do we talk before I go to break? Like, it's 7:30 now, so is it usually 30 minutes?
About 27 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
And so today, if I had got here enough time, I didn't think about it. I was trying to get it to 2 hours. Because that was a good call, though.
It was. And I appreciate the fact that he was white.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
that made it even better.
I ain't want to go on the cop thing because the security things. I used to be a security too.
I
used to be a rent a cop.
Me too. Never my goal to be a cop, but it was a job.
Right. And not to mention, there's a board out right on over there in the parking lot over there for police training. You want to fill out your application to be a cop?
Yeah, I'm good, boo.
No.
I'm good.
Did you just see what happened in Ferguson? Did you hear about them people, the Cleveland cops that's already in trouble as it is? No. That's why they hiring now, because them cops are got.
Yeah, I feel them, and that's a whole nother discussion. That snitching stuff in the black community, just where black people feel like I can't tell, because I'll be considered a snitch. Like,
right.
To who? To who? I'm trying to think. I wish I could find that post. I had posted something earlier on Marsha Fudge's page, and this man, like, you are a racist.
You talk about me. I don't know if you can find it, but mention that because that's important. Because it's not about. I mean, honestly, if you go and look at those pictures from Ferguson, everybody was out there. It wasn't just black people that were enraged. People are enraged about that around the world. Why you think that crap? Why you think they shutting down? Well, then again, it's Cleveland. Of course, we enraged, but
yeah. I'm trying to see. I'm gonna try to find it. I wish I can find it because he was like, "Oh my god."
You ready?
All right, welcome back to Elevating Your Consciousness. Again, I am your host, Miss Freddie. Again, we are here on WhoHasThePowerRadioShow.com.
WhoHasThePowerShow.com.
Who Has the Power Show?
Yes, it's right there.
Oops. WhoHasThePowerShow.com. But if you were listening to us before the break, we had a good call in from Joe.
From Philadelphia.
From Philly.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe, for listening, and hope you keep tuning in. And I appreciated his comments and his perspective on it because, like I said, on social media, people are basically kind of just retreating to their corners and taking sides, not really listening to the facts, and don't want to hear the facts, and just, going in. And like I said, somebody else had posted earlier that, the stuff that's going down in this country is really affecting race relations, which I definitely agree that is setting us back because, again, people automatically retreat to their corners where I'm going to take up for him because he's white and he's a cop, and I'm going to take up for him because he's black. If Mike Brown was truly, causing in a life-threatening situation to the officer, then yes, he has that right to use deadly force. The question is, was that the case? And if you haven't heard the testimony and the story of Mr. Wilson when he was on the news, just Google it, go to YouTube, whatever, and listen to his account of it, because when I listened to it, I took away I was uncomfortable with it. I just didn't understand how you go from shooting him and him running away, you chasing him down, and then all of a sudden he turning back on you and coming at you like he Hulk Hogan, as he said.
Right, and again, because we have multiple situations like that. I mean, does that not remind you of another situation? I mean, mind you, we don't want to go back and forth. We don't want to bring up other situations, but it does sound like the Trayvon Martin situation. Somebody pursuing, and all of a sudden now you're attacking. It's like that's.
And then your defense is, I was fearful. If you were fearful, if you were that afraid, then why are you chasing him? Why are you pursuing him? Because if you didn't shot him, and he clearly stated, I know I hit him because I seen his body flinch. I knew I hit him. So he got to go to the hospital. I mean, I don't know, how strong you think we are and how invincible you think the black man is. But if you get shot, you're going to the hospital. There's no self-healing. There's no superhero there.
Right.
Not going to heal itself. He has to go to the hospital. And if you go to the hospital with a gun wound, they have to report it to the police. So he would have got caught anyway. So what was your point of pursuit if you were afraid for your life? That's my thing. That's my take on it. But again, it's not just Mike Brown. And that's what people just don't understand. And like the people in Ferguson is saying, we've never had race wars. We've never had the riots like they had in Watts, like they had in Huff here in Cleveland, like they've had in other cities. They've never had that explosion. So it's happening now. Just because it's 2014 and it didn't happen in the 60s doesn't mean it's not relevant. They still have a serious issue with race. And for black people that are out there looting and setting fires, and I understand. I do. I understand your anger. I understand your frustration, but you get nothing accomplished. And I try to tell people, at the end of the day, if we don't work in a purposeful and strategic manner, not just for black people, but for white people and for people in poverty, white, black, Hispanics, Asian, whomever it is, if we don't work in a united, purposeful manner, then this is going to continue to happen. It may not happen to you in a situation that your child is gunned down because they, may not be of African American descent or black or whatever, but they'll get caught up some kind of way off of class because you ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? So we fighting each other, but we need to be united. And what I tell people in Ferguson, what I tell people here, when you look at the prosecutor that came on last night, one, you stage a press conference at 9:00 at night. Really, y'all knew the decision during the daytime. Why you wait till 9:00 at night? Most of the people that were out there probably were a little younger, that was going to get, cause a little whatever, because why you wait till 9? But again, we want to talk about some solutions and how do we move forward. And if you out there and you want to call in, definitely we can have the discussion. But I always, and I'm going to keep going back to it until it sinks into people's head, that prosecutor that stood before you last night and gave that press conference and gave Officer Wilson every benefit of the doubt, because you have no counter argument from the deceased, just in the same situation as Trayvon Martin, he elected. And then you have the ignorance of black people. Voting don't matter. It don't make no difference. I ain't voting. You ain't even but 21, 22. You ain't even been voting long enough to know what type of impact it makes. But you sat on the sidelines when it was time to elect your prosecutor. Y'all didn't participate in the process, and then you get mad with his decisions. Y'all not his constituents because you don't vote. He's there. He's supposed to be there to protect all. But if you're not participating in the process, then you're going to be left out, and you're not going to be happy with the decisions that come down. So if you want to act in a constructive manner and you want to really affect change, then you have to get engaged in the political process. We have to get engaged with our community. We have to get engaged with our own youth, and we have to, as black people, hold ourselves accountable. We can't just get mad and react and be mad. What are we doing to stop it? What are we doing to curb it? What are we doing to actually change policy? Because you're not going to change a policy by burning up a car. You're not going to change a policy by breaking out the window of a store, burning it down. You're not going to change any policy. And I tell people, look at your history. If you're not looking at your history, you just want to go off of social media and the news, which I think our news in this country sucks, you're not going to be an informed person. You're going to be ignorant. You're going to be ignorant to the facts, and you're just going to go off of what you see online, what you see in the news. But check the history of this country. Check the history of whatever's been going on in Ferguson and everywhere else across this country. So again, if you want to see something come out of this, out of Mike Brown, out of Trayvon Martin, out of Jordan Davis, out of countless others, you have to get engaged in the process. You have to be there to hold the prosecutor accountable, the police chief accountable.
Right.
And like I say, we have the situation here in Cleveland with the 12-year-old that was killed. You know what I'm saying? People are upset, they're outraged, they're disgusted, and this and that. But again, it all boils back down to politics and money. You know what I'm saying? And we as African Americans, black, poor people, whomever, Hispanics, you know what I'm saying? Until we understand the economic and political power that we actually possess, we're going to keep seeing this happen. We're going to keep seeing this happen over and over again. That's why the prosecutor can be so callous and he can be so nonchalant about it. Because guess what? At the end of the day, he ain't going to lose his job because you don't vote. You don't vote.
And not only that, I mean, because you mentioned that, and I'm on Twitter and going through on Facebook and they're talking about, you know, the situation that happened here in Cleveland. I mean, I was, it was crazy. Now, thank God I didn't have to access this this freeway or whatever. But at the point that they decided that they were going to block off, was it 90 East or 90? Was it 90 East?
It was the sure drive, so it had to be
90 East. I think that's 90 East going towards Dead Man's Curve. And, you know, people get out there and protest it. And if I'm looking at Twitter correctly, it was Oberlin College. Yeah, I believe it was Oberlin. It was students from Oberlin College who were protesting. Now, again, like you said, and I'll say this because I was a part of a march after Trayvon Martin was killed, and everybody was outraged with that. But like you said, what do we do after, you know, the protest? What do we do to, as they say, keep the fight going? Or do we just take pictures and, you know, like I said, send out, you know, tweets and all this stuff, talking about our outrage and what we don't like? Or do we actually put it into action?
Of the talk. I'm so sick of the talking and all the people that get on social media that say this and say that, and my whole response always is and always will be, what are you doing though? What are you doing? Because it takes all of us. What are you doing besides getting on social media and voicing your outrage and your frustration? What are you doing beyond that? Because when you think of the movement in the 60s, they didn't have Twitter, Facebook, cell phones, computers. They ain't had none of that. Half of them didn't have house phones. So they were able to change policy in this country without all the modern technologies and all the things that we have at our fingertips. They were able to make it happen. And it's a sad testament to us today that we can't get nothing accomplished, but we go on social media, we complain, we this and that, and then you say something about voting. I ain't voting. What that got to do with it? You missing the point then.
Right.
You missing the whole picture if you don't get that aspect of it, because they understood that they didn't even have the right to vote when the civil rights movement went on in the 60s. They didn't even have the right to vote. And they were blocked every step of the way because they knew, the people on the other side of that argument knew how much power it is in that process. And now for us to be sitting here 40 years later and so ignorant to it, blatantly ignorant to it, it irritates me. It irritates me as a black person. It irritates me to see my people sitting up there in such disarray and act like they don't know which way to go. And the so-called leaders that are out there, they never put it out there in black and white form. You know, and when I talked about the election results, I said the Democrats deserve to lose because they did a piss poor job at trying to take over. So they deserve to lose. So that's just my opinion. I don't mean I'm for the Republicans because I got some issues with them too. But again, politicians are employees and treat them as such. Stop looking at them as Democrats or Republicans. Look at the issues. Look at what they're for and against. In my personal opinion, the two things you need to take off the table when you're looking at a politician. If they pro-life, pro-choice, they go to church, I don't care. You're not here to be my minister. I don't need you for that. That's what you got. That's why you got a billion churches all throughout this country. That's what you got the right to choose to believe how you choose to believe. But when it comes to a politician, they're there to do a job to serve the people. So take away that, and if they're serving you in your community and making your community better, that's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at, not if he that he doesn't believe in abortion or he believes in God and this and that, because at the end of the day, this country was founded on the fact that it was supposed to be a separation between church and state, which has gotten so meshed up together. You know what I'm saying? And people like, well, the problem is prayer and this and that. And that may be true. But again, that's not, you have to separate it from the politics of it. You have to separate that. You have to take your emotion out of it and look at them as strictly employees, because that's all they are. They're employees and they're there to do a job. And that means making this country better for everyone, not the top 1%, not the people that are super rich, but for everybody. And it just bothers me when people retreat to their corners and vote against their own economic interests because they're so blinded by all the BS in between. Again, that's just my opinion. But I believe my opinion is right. So I'm just saying.
Well, one thing I want to ask is, mind you, again, as we talk about people in action, and I've noticed, I'm not following them, but I know that they are definitely on the cusp of everything. You've heard about Anonymous, right?
Who?
Anonymous.
Yeah, right.
Anonymous what?
Ooh,
you need to get on with it.
Come on, who is
Anonymous? is well, I know they put out a video earlier this week in regards to the situation with the 12-year-old, but they have been, I guess they have people on the grounds some everywhere in New York. They got pictures of protesting in New York. They shut down East 14th Street. I can see they got it. They've done it in Chicago. I'm sorry. Yeah, they did. I saw a. Let me see if I can go back. I just saw. Here we go. Chicago police order Ferguson protesters to leave City Hall. 50 protesters stay behind and sit down. Long line of police cars in Ferguson. And where's that? Westfall Plaza. In Canal Street in New Orleans.
So take that movement, take that frustration, take that anger, take all of that and translate it into uplifting our communities. Translate that into educating and making our school systems better. Translate that into lifting people out of poverty, because until we solve the problem of poverty, you're going to continually have this pipeline to prison system in low income communities, because poverty drives everything. If people living under the poverty line in what's supposed to be the greatest country on earth, it's a shame on America. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about poverty has been here. And Martin Luther King tried to put a light on that. And if you don't know your history, his second march was going to be on poverty, because poverty has no color. Poverty is for whites, for blacks, for Hispanics, for Asians, for all across any color line. That is a problem. And people living in poverty get caught up in this vicious cycle that is almost impossible to break. So, you know, in social media today, and always when something like this comes up, they always go back to, what about the black on black crime? I have an issue with that too. But we're not talking about black on black crime, because that's a problem that we as black people have to address within our own selves and hold ourselves accountable as what's going on in our communities and why we not stepping up to the plate. And that's where I go back to people that post all this stuff on social media. What are you doing? Do you go to the school board meetings? Do you vote? What are you doing to try to change the dynamics of your community? Nothing, because everybody is always, well, it ain't mine. If it ain't mine, it don't matter to me. But your child, your daughter, son, whomever, has to step outside of your house.
And I hate that, because I talk about that, on Mondays and Wednesdays. That, and matter of fact, I mentioned it yesterday. When I was talking to Don Slocum from Neighborhood Leadership Institute, and we was talking about this whole me and my syndrome, but yet you want to talk about community and, I need help. But when it comes time to help other people, you know where to be found. You get yours, and that's it. But mind you, there's still unrest. There's still issues going on. Like I said, when we talk about this situation, or as you mentioned, because that's that you're our political correspondent. But and sometimes it does come down to a vote. And
Don Slocum, I went through the neighborhood leadership.
Yeah, I mentioned. I mentioned. I know you went. No, Robin went through it.
I went through it.
I forgot. I knew somebody forgot.
Went through it, and he was the one. Don Slocum. He was the one that validated for me what I already knew, that how the schools are funded is unconstitutional, but we do nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? It's so many things that are wrong that can be changed with the power of a vote, that we don't understand that we just sit back like, I ain't voting, it don't matter. And we vote for the same people over and over again and then expect a different solution. That's just like you being in an abusive relationship and you're like, well, he was sorry. He was sorry. I forgive him. He gonna change. Because, no, it ain't gonna change. Ain't gonna change. And if you keep electing the same people, ain't nothing gonna change. Ain't nothing gonna change. But, that's neither here nor there. But again, when you tune into us, we are about solutions. So again, at the end of the day, with how hot Twitter was and how everybody is blowing up, and if you take that effort and showed up and voted, you don't do that. You don't see that. Because when you want to get their attention, show up at them polls. Show up at them polls and start holding people accountable. Show up at them city council meetings. Show up at the school board meetings. Show up then and there and start holding these people accountable. Then and only then you're going to see some change start to come. Because my whole thing is, with the whole voting process and what's going on in this country with the prosecutors and how they choose not to indict people.
Right.
What was her name? Alexander, the girl down in Florida. They gave her 3 years. For
Marissa.
For shooting a gun up in the air. They gave her 3 years. But George Zimmerman, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem. That is a problem. You know what I'm saying? And again, the prosecutor in Florida, the prosecutor here, the prosecutor in Missouri, these are people that are elected, that you choose to sit back at home and say, voting don't make no difference. And then when something like this happens, then you all out in the street. You need to be, that's how it should look on election day.
Right.
That's how it should look on election day. That y'all all out in the street, that y'all lined up, posted up, voting, making your voice heard, and making sure that something changes. And until you get that, nothing is. They don't care. Honestly, they don't care about y'all guys protesting.
Right.
It's news. It gives good ratings. It's good for TV.
Right.
And then it dies down until the next thing happens. They could care less about you protesting because they know at the end of the day, I'ma still be the prosecutor.
Right.
I'ma still be the judge.
Right.
I'ma still be this and that.
Now, as a matter of fact, President Obama mentioned that. Did you see his press conference yesterday? He mentioned that in the press conference yesterday.
Over people's head.
I mean, he's like, I know, because somebody went to ask a question, and I'm sorry, I off topic, but that's why they say this president has the most swag, okay? Because he let one question come in, and the guy wanted to try to take him in a different direction. He answered the question, and then he tried to go back, and he walked off. I was like, that guy. I'm sorry. I know that's probably not the time for me to mention swag, but that was he was. It was. I mean, the thing about it was, I guess as being media, and of course we do media differently. As far as I know, I mean, I'm sure there's other outlets out there that do it like this, but mind you, on a consistent basis, you have to find a way to help the people, not continuously hurt or again make a buck. And I'll tell people in a minute, we don't make a lot of money, but our thing is, as long as we're impacting people, we're empowering people. That's what needs to happen. Not only that, and I want to mention, because I'm still on Anonymous's Twitter page, and again, we talk about how this affects other people. This does not just affect Missouri, Cleveland, Florida, New Orleans,
every urban community
in the world. Okay.
Yeah, in the world, and it goes beyond the United States.
Right.
It does. It truly does.
I'm looking at a tweet from dealing with Palestine. Now, you keep in mind, we are still supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave.
Hoorah,
all these great things, but what do you think this looks like to the rest of the world? We talk about competition and we're supposed to be better, but now of course we're not even going to talk about education, but we're going we talk about how you already know that good.
Education. We're going to talk about the imprisonment. For us to be the greatest country on earth, we have more people incarcerated than all the countries combined.
Right. But then, and on top of that, you want people to come here, but this is what you're showing them. Like I said, a bunch of talk. First of all, the law enforcement is not fair. They see that. Why am I going to go there? I can get shot at home. I can get shot in my own country. Okay, so people want to protest. Now we're going to protest, but that's only going to be till next week, and then it's going to be back to the club or whatever.
Right, and then it's going to be whatever the next, the hot topic of the day is. And for me, I'm going to say it just like this. I'm gonna say this when it comes to us making something happen and bringing about actual change. And again, I always reflect back to history, because if you don't know your history, you don't know you don't know where you're going. If you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. You have no direction. You sitting up there just flying in the wind and going whichever way the wind blows. But when you think about, again, the movement that took place in the 60s amongst black people. And again, it wasn't just black people, because they had white people. They had other people of other races that were involved in it, because it wasn't just about race. It was about what was right and what was wrong. But you had artists, you had entertainers, you had actors that stood up, that stood outside of that entertainment field and took a risk. You had Harry Belafonte. You had so many actors that put Dick Gregory. You had so many people that said, you know what, my soul can't be bought. I'ma still stand up for what's right. And you have people today. We have so many black people in positions of power and influence. We have not figured out how to constructively channel it to make any difference. You got from Beyonce to Jay-Z to Oprah to LeBron to so many black influences, and yet we're still completely scattered. We're still completely scattered without making any concerted effort, because I don't know if everybody's so busy worried about, I may lose this sponsor, I may lose this and that. Stevie Wonder still standing.
Right.
And he took a stance.
Right. And not only that, because I was listening to that on sports radio, and they was talking about athletes getting involved in these type of social situations. And if you are a true sports fan, you should remember 1968 at the Mexico Olympics, where Tommy Smith and John Carlos, mind you, they won medals, but they still represented Black power at the Olympics.
What?
Nothing changed because I'm in another
millions.
Right.
That's courage, because it could have been so much backlash behind that they stood up there and they held their fist up proud, letting you know. And you think about people like James Brown and all these people. People of our generation, we focus on the negative stuff that may happen in their life, and we forget the impact, the courage that it took them to stand up against something. And I don't think celebrities today have that courage. I don't think they do. I think they're so guarding their own self-interest that they refuse to step up. And then at the same token, we as a people can be so ignorant. I ain't stepping out on a limb for them, but somebody got to do it.
Right.
Where does it start? Somebody has to do it. And we winding down, and we did need 2 hours today. We did. We winding down, but we gonna keep this conversation going.
We could do it next week.
Every week.
You want to do it next week?
Yeah. Like this one girl posted on, this was Twitter, and she said, and I thought it was just a very strong statement. She said, they're killing our sons, over sexualizing our daughters, destroying our icons, mocking our culture, at the same time stealing our identities. Listen to it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to say it again, because maybe, let me say it again. She said, they're killing our sons, over sexualizing our daughters, destroying our icons, mocking our cultures, at the same time stealing our identities. Do you not see it? Do you not get it, people? So I want to thank y'all, tuning in with Elevating Your Consciousness. We are here every Tuesday from 7 to 8. Next week we probably go from 7 to 9. Because
are you asking for that?
Well, I'm just saying, because we didn't get to talk about Bill Cosby.
Right.
None of that. So, next week we're going to go in even harder and call in, put your, whatever. We got to go. See you. Thank you again for tuning in. God bless you all. Live, love, and laugh, and try to make a difference along the way. That went too quick. That was good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we could do Aftermath Part 2 next week.
Oh yeah, because there's no way to change it, and like I say, it stays in the mainstream media for this week. Next week they're gonna be on something else.
Right.
Bill Cosby probably happy at this point, like, y'all mother stop talking about me.
I say somebody, I got irritated because somebody put a meme out about that used him, and I'm just like, nah.
Oh no, see, we got to go in on that, because my personal opinion, I had did a voice record just so I can remember the thought I had about it, and it was like, just to understand the impact that Cosby had on the black community, just to understand it. I'm like, before I seen the Cosby Show, he put this image of black that I never seen. I gotta tell people, my household is different today because of me watching the Cosby Show. I'm like, I grew up, when you came over to somebody's house, you lucky you got offered some water, let alone juice and apple juice, and you want, really?
Right.
Y'all, you know what I'm saying? And then the culture, the art, the history. And he gave us a blueprint. Of course, we weren't going to be the Cosbys, but he gave us a blueprint. And he gave us a way, and he gave us the blueprint on how you get out of this. Because that come from the Cosby Show and then transcended into a different world. Most black people didn't even think about college like that until they seen a different world. Like, okay, I probably could get to college. He always pushed education. So for y'all to try to tear this man down at this point in time, and I take nothing away from somebody being raped, molested, whatever. But at the end of the day, 40 years later, it happened in the 60s, really?
But not only that, because why is Janice Dickinson really?
You ain't been abused before then?
I'm sorry, we still don't. It don't matter.